find the scissors.
Thanks Simon, thanks Nanny.
He's my grandson, by those who don't know.
I'm grandson, one of the grandchildren, and on behalf of everyone who was involved in raising the money to get the bench, I just wanted to say thank you, because I know it's a lot of money to buy a bench like this, and we did want to do something that linked to Dick, and you've heard from Simon all the ways in which it does that. The book that Simon was talking about, when you think of sort of all the bestsellers in the 1990s, the sort of Jurassic Park and Harry Potter and stuff like that, Red Ruffs and Copper Kettles doesn't quite make that list, but in a way it's much more poignant and important in relation to Dick and this bench, and if you think about the location, the tree behind it, the village and everything that meant to Dick, it's really special. We had to get in touch with lots of people. There were lots of students from former schools, there were friends in the village, and we raised over £2,000 to get the bench put in place, and thanks to Simon for all your hard work in finding quotes and getting it done. And there are so many connections you've heard already. I'd like to think when you look at the bench, you sort of, it's a bit quirky, isn't it? It's not your standard block bench, and I think in so many ways that's like Dick, isn't it? He was very quirky, and he always had a joke, he always had a limerick, he always had a little glint in his eye. The other book that that Dick's written is also about ditchling. I'm sure if you're anything like our family, we got given one every Christmas, so I've got at least 20 copies of No Ordinary Place, and it talks about Dick growing up in and around within spitting distance from here, and it tells a tale, and I like to think that, you know, within this bench, within this location, Dick's memory lives on. And I know he wouldn't want us to dwell on anything too sad, so I sort of think the quirky shape does remind me of Dick, and in that No Ordinary Place he talks about all sorts of things, the ancient crafts of ditchling, and that's represented in the blacksmith's work, the ancient sites and everything else. He also tells a few cheeky tales, as you would imagine Dick would. He tells one of a day where he didn't make the team to get on the maypole to do the maypole dance on May Day, and he was really upset he didn't make this team, but then he realised that the second prize, the copper kettle as it were, was to sit on the floor by the maypole and watch the maypole dancers dance, and he thought from that vantage point he could see up the skirts of the but I'm sure he couldn't say anything like that these days, could you? But yeah.
It was very big.
I'll leave Nanny to tell you the rest of that story another time. So really, as you locals and everyone else who might use this bench, when you sit there, it'd be brilliant just to think of Dick, think of the way that he would love to think about social history, looking at times gone by 100 years ago, or almost 100 years ago, when he was born in 1928 here, hopefully 100 years into the future, and all the things that will happen in between. You can sit on this bench and think about that. You can have a laugh at the sort of quirkiness of it all, and really just think, it's ironic, I think, that it's a bench, because I don't think I ever saw Dick sitting down. He was always hedging or moving around, so sometimes we did just have to ask him to pause for a minute. So with all that in mind, I would just say the final thing I was going to say about the bench is that there were two things. I was with Dick when he passed away, right at the last, and there were two things I said to Dick. One is that we'd all look after Nanny, and I think we're all doing our best, but it's usually the other way around. Nanny looking after us. And the second thing is I just thanked him for all the humour and laughs that he brought to all of our lives. So really, if you're ever here and can just sit down and enjoy it and have a little smile and think of Dick, that'd be great. And that's all I wanted to say. Except the last thing was that on Facebook, when we were doing the crowdfunder, Joe and Simon got in touch with old students, and there was the same story kept coming up about Dick as a head teacher, was that he was, as you might know, he was very against smoking. And if he ever caught any student smoking, he would apparently have a vantage point in his own school where he would see for miles and see all the students on the hill smoking, and he'd go out and get them, sometimes in a kind way, sometimes in a less kind way. So I would like to think that if you could do one thing when you're passing this bench, if you ever do see any cigarette butts or anything around there, if you could just pick them up and move them on, I think Dick would be very pleased with that. And so, Red Ruffs, Copper Kettles, never let a fag end settle. If you remember that, then I think we'll be all right. So, but thank you, and thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, Peter.